fixed up because I get complaints that my collar or my sleeve or my whatever is driving people crazy. So if you're that easily distracted, then cool. I just give you something to look at, right? Let me take that, shave that. I'm growing a wraparound. I think it's cool. It can be a mustache if you need it. You know what? My daughter, she gripes about it, but secretly she likes it. She likes to have the coolest dad in the world. I thought it'd take a while for that to sink in. All right, man. I decided that God's been talking to me a lot lately about me, and so I'm going to call today old school, because I'm going to go old school on you, if it's all right. If you've never been in church, then it's just new school. I'm going to go old school though. Not old school 20 years ago, but like old school maybe 100 years ago. So that's all right. So get ready. I'm going to start by telling you something that today is just, it's good. It's good. Today is good, okay? I want to start by saying that to you. 6 weeks ago, I had a heart attack. And the doctor said when I got to the emergency room, I thought I had heartburn, severe heartburn. Bad enough for me to go to the doctor, heartburn. And the doctor said, if you ever feel like you're going to die, you ought to come to the emergency room. So just for you guys who don't ever go to the doctor, if you have heartburn and you think you're going to die, go to the doctor. They said the number one symptom of a heart attack is that you think you're going to die. So, man, I went to bed on, well, we'd gone to Fellowship Church Saturday night, and I like to go to different churches on Saturday nights because I like to just slip in and get charged up and get filled up, and then, you know, I really enjoy Fellowship. I enjoy their music. I enjoy what they're about. I really enjoy Ed Young because he's authentically the real deal. I mean, he's the real deal. Fellowship Church operates under the same philosophy we do, that there should not be anyone going to hell, that we're not trying to stop that from happening. And they're passionate about reaching lost people, and so I love going there and being encouraged there. But we went there, and then we stopped and we ate, and I was bragging about no, I wasn't bragging. I like Fuddruckers. Anybody else? Like one time, they served this 1 pound hamburger, and one time, man, we had this flight into California, and it was one of those where your time zones make you miss lunch, and I got there and we went to Fuddruckers, and they were like, you know, nobody really eats the 1 pound. You probably shouldn't eat the 1 pound burger. Like, you used to get your picture up if you ate it. Well, I ate it and my fries, and I could have had dessert. So I like Fuddruckers. So anyway, we were up there and we were eating, and man, I started having heartburn, and I took a bunch of Rolaids or Tums or something. I mean, like a bunch, like a pack and a half a bottle. And it didn't seem to be helping, so I laid down. And I got up a little bit later, and I told Celia, I said, man, I got to go to the hospital. And she's like, okay. She starts getting up, and then I laid back down. I'm like, no, I'm done. I'm all right. I'm all right. And I laid there a little bit more, and I'm like, oh, I got to go to the hospital. And she said, okay, let me get I was like, no, never mind. I'm not going. I'm fine. I'm going to be good. We did this for about 30 minutes, and about midnight, I was like, okay, here's the deal. I got some severe heartburn, and so I'm going to go to the hospital, and if I don't make it back in time for church, then you're just going to have to take care of everything. So she calls my mom and tells on me. She says, he's going to take himself to the hospital. He's going to drive to the hospital. And I didn't see anything at all wrong with that. So I agreed to let my dad take me to the hospital. They worked out all the details. And so then I was like, okay. But then she insisted on driving me to my dad's house. I'm like, whatever. So we all got up and we went to the hospital. And I got there, and they give you this concoction to make sure you're not just having reflux or anything. It's horrible. I mean, it's bad. And I drank it, and they said, how do you feel? I said, I feel the same. They said, well, that's not good, because that means that it was more, and they started hooking me up. And anyway, I was in the middle of having a heart attack, and all the enzymes and everything just kept going up. And they started out there like, well, you're either having a heart attack or you've had a mild heart attack. And then they came back and said, about an hour later, they kept taking this test, and they said, well, you've had a moderate heart attack. And then they came back an hour later and said, you're having a pretty severe heart attack. And now I was like, good, now somebody do something, I mean, thanks for the information. I'm fully aware, and so they put me on nitroglycerin drip. And anybody ever had nitroglycerin? Oh my! The worst headache you can possibly imagine. It's like opens up all your vessels to your brain and sends all the toxins they can get in your brain just to fry it out for a few minutes, and it hurts so bad. But it relieved the pain in my chest, so it was an excellent trade. And so they put me in the hospital, and I was shocked that I didn't get to go home the next day. Because, I was packing my stuff up, getting ready, and they're like, we're moving you to ICU. And I'm like, ICU what? We're moving you to ICU. So they moved me to ICU. And what I didn't know is that I was going to be laying in this room that was like a 6x8 prison cell for the next 4 days. And anyway, they got all the blockage cleaned out and everything. So I'm back on. I lived, and that was a good thing. For me, it was. For me, it was pretty good, and but I had a lot of time to lay there and stare at the ceiling, and I have to tell you guys, I'm not saying that I know why I had a heart attack. I mean, I know why, but I have a lot of inherited factors, and I didn't eat right, and I despise exercise. Despise it. But there's some things that had been going on with me for a while, and they were building up and building up and building up. And my wife and I were youth pastors years ago, and I really, God totally resurrected me from the dead. He transformed me and changed me and saved my life. And when He did, I thought that was I thought that was the greatest thing that anyone could experience. So I wanted to spend the rest of my life making sure that everyone got to experience what I got. That I was radically set free, that I was radically transformed, that I was in death and brought to life. And that's a very, very powerful experience. And I think that everyone in this planet needs to experience the resurrection from the dead and needs to experience the transformation of life. And so when I was transformed, I gave my life fully to God to be used in whatever way He wanted to use me. And we started, I've told you before, but we started teaching 2-year-olds. So I would, teach 2-year-olds, unresponsive. Just, man, no, they were great. We had so much fun. And then I think then we went to like 5th graders, and wasn't as much fun. No, I really liked that better, and it was awesome because they actually, would pretend they listen. Then we we started working with high school and junior high kids, and man, it was just incredible. And then we pretty much just moved to working with high school kids, and we were doing high school ministry, and man, I was seeing that we were really having some impact on some kids' lives, and it was just really awesome. And God really started moving and dealing with me about the parents. What I saw was you can preach and teach and impact kids, but the homes they were going back into were just horrible. They were terrible, and there was no life in them. And God gave me a passion, not just for the adults, but for the family, for the church. And I couldn't resist it. I couldn't turn back. I just couldn't let it go. And I loved the kids. I loved being a kid. But I felt like we could have the most impact in the church environment. And then I found out when I started teaching to adults that they didn't like what I had to say. They didn't like to listen to what I was talking about, so they were harsh and mean. And I found out church people were, in my experience at that time, man, my friends, when we were all drunk and wasted and partying, they weren't mean. The church people were mean, man. I mean, ruthless. And so I was shocked. I just have to tell you. I mean, I was blown away shocked. So we grew through that experience, and God impacted us and told us and led us that we needed to start a church, because I had this passion that there were so many people that were just like me, that regular, traditional red carpet, pews, organs, stained glass, 3-point suits and ties, just was not gonna ever appeal, And so God really impressed on me to reach out to a different group of people than was being reached out to. Now, I know I've never been in a church that said they weren't trying to reach people, but literally trying to reach people on your terms or trying to reach people on their terms are two totally different things. And so every church invites people to come in and be part of what they're doing, but I really had this passion that we could actually go and meet people where they were at, and that we could pour our lives out into a community that would radically transform the community, that would change lives, that the people who were broken, people who were addicted, people whose families were falling apart, people whose kids who had lost their kids, people who were in blended, mixed, broken up families could actually come in and experience the love of God without judgment, without expectation, without condemnation, and come in and receive and experience God, the real living God, in the way that I had found Him, or He had found me. And so we started the church, and man, we were rolling, and it was awesome. And I mean, everybody who came, I got called a lot of things because passionate people drive people crazy. And And so I was called a lot of things. Control freak was a consistent one. But, hey, I was passionate that there is a way that God has given me to reach this lost and dying world, and I'm going to go after that with everything inside me, with every breath in my body, regardless of what it costs me, regardless of what people think of me. And we did, man, and it was just, and people were coming, and they were on board, and it was awesome, and they were just following, and then we started, coming under attacks, and it was awesome. I love when Satan attacks, because Jesus actually goes and says that you are blessed when you're persecuted. Like, remember blessed, happy? And actually the weirdest thing was I thought the more people I have coming at me, the more, and I want to say this correctly, the more demons I had coming after me through people. People are just people, they're vessels. And a lot of people get used for the demonic and get used for the purpose of Satan. We can serve one of two gods, period. We're either serving God or we're serving Satan. And so I love that Satan noticed. Satan took note what was going on. And it was great. But after a while, man, it came in a way that in my age and with my personality and my maturity level, it came in a way that I wasn't expecting it. And several years ago, everything started coming unraveled, and it got really bad, man. And it felt like that everyone in my life abandoned me. And I wrote a song about this, but I remember Peter was walking with Jesus one day after the multitudes had abandoned Jesus. And he looked at Peter and he said, "Are you going to leave too?" And I felt like God had literally said that to me, "Are you going too?" And I said, "No. I commit my life to you to stay for the long haul." Could you imagine, though? I mean, I think about this. Sherry, I think you had a shirt on once that said raising kids is like being pecked to death by chickens. I've taken that as my motto. Man, I felt like for the last 6 years that I was being pecked to death by chickens. And it was just one thing after another, after another, after another, after another, after another, and it was one major blow, and it came from here, and it came from there, and it came from all around, and it was hard. And there's some days when you do ministry, when you live your life for God, there's some days where it's just you and God, and you're not even sure if it's you. You know, it may just be God. And I'd felt hurt, and I'd felt pain. And the worst possible part of everything that I'd experienced was what it had done to my family. What it had done to my daughter as she was growing up in this chicken-pecking festive environment. Because it was killing all of us. And I guess over time it just started wearing down. So what you do is you don't realize when you start to drift. You don't realize when you start to lose passion. Passion, I don't think, disappears in an event or overnight. I just think it starts to fade. And over the last few years, it was just laborsome to keep everything going and to continue to walk in lead and try to lead, and you gotta, guys, I mean, it's frustrating because you got people saying, you know, the music's too loud, the music's not loud enough, there's not enough bass, there's too much bass. The message is too long. The message isn't long enough. I don't know why you don't talk about this. I wish we had kids ministry doing this. Why don't we have this program? Why don't we have that program? It's too hot. It's too cold. It's too this. It's too that. It's always, and it's just all the time. I don't like the lights. I love the lights. It's too dark. It's not dark enough. It's just all this nonstop, and pretty soon you just start to get to where like you're trying to figure out, God, how do you? And I can't describe this to you unless some of you may have been in ministry before, but I can't describe this to you. There's no experience like having people hate you that your only purpose in life is to give them life. It's an amazing experience to have people despise you and talk about you and turn on you and hate you when all your life is given to trying to make their lives better. And the criticism that you receive is that you're just not doing enough, and you're not doing it good enough. And pretty soon you get worn out. And so last couple of years, it just came to this point where it was just all I could do. And I need you to understand where the fall happens. When you're carrying it, everything you do will always fail. Come to me, you are burdened and weary, and I will give you rest for your souls. But in the middle of storms, a lot of times, man, you don't get that because you're pursuing God. But here's what happens. Your passion and your discipline and your longing for what used to be keep fueling and firing that, but you don't have the desire to read your Bible. You're not hungry for the Word like you were. You're not hungry. You can't look forward to. Prayer is not without ceasing. Prayer is hard. It's laborsome to come to God and pray. And I don't know if you've ever experienced that, where it's hard, where it's discipline and discipline alone that brings you to the place where you know there's life in it. And you feel good when you do it, and you feel good in the middle of it. But getting to it, everything in the world is battling against you. When you worship, when it's all you can do to worship, when it's all that you can give to just come into the presence of God and center my life on Him, and in the middle of all of that, you're carrying that. And I had been carrying that. The people I loved and had given my life to, then, I don't know if you've ever been in this place in your life. Have you ever been in that place where you just can't take one more thing? Where it's just like this little thing's piled on and that little thing's piled on, and you can't take that one more insignificant little thing. You know, it's always that last chop that brings the tree down. Right? And so all of this is going on, and it's just piling up, and it's piling up, and it's getting heavier and heavier and heavier, and I'm laboring, and I knew it, and our staff knew it, but man, I'm telling you, they had been carrying with me so long. I think a lot of us were in the same place. God, it's just, He was. Man, I imagine God was like, what is wrong with these people? No, Satan had come after us, and I'll be honest, we had surrendered a lot of ground. And it was piled on and it was piled on and it was piled on. And I came down to the last 6 months. And privately, in my heart, I was having conversations with God like, I'm out of here. And I don't mean out of here, I mean out of here. I mean, I'm out of ministry. I will go do a job. I will come home and mind my own business. I will walk with you and love you, but everybody else can go to hell. Those were in my heart. I didn't say that out loud. It's not good for the church when your pastor tells you to go to hell. It's not. I whined, man, and what I started reading, this is crazy. When I read my Bible, you know what I started reading? I started reading about Elijah. Anybody know the story about Elijah? He battled and warred and, man, saw the most amazing things of God. Then he goes and he cries and hides and just says, God, just kill me. He's in just total depression all the time. And then Jeremiah, man, Jeremiah was just where I hung my hat because, like, I was reading stuff like in Jeremiah like this. Oh, Lord, you persuaded me and I allowed myself to be persuaded. You are stronger than I am, and you overpowered me. Now I am mocked by everyone in the city. Whenever I speak, the words come out in violent outbursts. Violence and destruction I shout. So these messages from the Lord have made me a household joke. I can't stop. If I say I'll never mention the Lord or speak His name, His word burns in my heart like a fire. It's like a fire in my bones, and I am weary from holding it in. They call me the man who lives in terror. So I'm reading stuff like that. I'm reading my Bible. I'm having this pity party. I love in verse 18, that's in Jeremiah 20, verse 18, it says, why was I ever born? My entire life has been filled with trouble, sorrow, and shame. That's what I was like, dude, this is just, man, I'm ringing there with Jeremiah, you know. So I battled with depression I battled with depression. I think a lot of that has to do with not having blood to your head. I've heard. That's the artery that was blocked happened to be the one that goes to my head. So it was like, you know, I guess that affects you. But it seemed to be getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. And so all of it just finally built up. And so I was like, I've had enough. I'm going on vacation. And I was on vacation, and I was thinking the whole time, man, I'm just going to pack up and move. I just leave. I mean, just leave. Like, leave. Go somewhere. Not tell anybody where you're at. Leave, you know. Go hide. Just change your name, change your address, change your phone number, and go, you know. Thought that would be cool. Those were my fantasies. I wasn't, again, those were inside thoughts. People don't, it's not great. You don't tell your wife stuff like that. She freaks out. So you don't tell her, I'm out of here. Because I wasn't sure I was going to invite her. I'd have had to call Ella, though, yeah. No, it was, man, it was just one of those things where you just had enough, and enough was just enough. Well, I came back, and actually, you guys may not remember, but it was the Saturday night before our first Sunday back, and I was, all day that day, I was just thinking, I don't want to go back. I am so sick of talking to the same people about the same thing and not seeing any movement. I'm so sick of Christianity being nothing but go to church and live my life however I want to through the week. I'm so sick of no one being brokenhearted because of our sin. I'm sick of a culture that has in Facebook verse after verse after verse after verse, and then the dirtiest, raunchiest post next to it. Pictures and sayings and things like this and judgment and talking about and all of this. And I'm like, we're all painted with the same brush, and I'm sick of it. I'm sick of being associated with the kind of Christianity that's out boycotting homosexuality at the same time sleeping with my girlfriend. What is wrong? I'm sick of it. I'm sick of the idea that Jesus isn't enough. I'm sick of the idea that I am so much a part of this world that I desire the things of the world and I want to use Jesus to get it. I want to be blessed, but I want to be blessed worldly. I pray to God, God, give me what I want in this world. And I'm sick of being part of this Christian idea. I'm sick of being a part of a Christian idea that says, you know what, I can do anything I want to because I'm free. Paul writes this in Galatians 5:16. So I advise you to live according to your new life in the Holy Spirit. Then you won't be doing what your sinful nature craves. The old sin nature loves to do evil, which is just the opposite of what the Holy Spirit wants. And then he talks about the two forces that battle with each other. And then in chapter 6, verse 11, Paul goes on and he writes this. And you don't have to look. And this is another thing, man. Do we even own Bibles? I mean, do we read them? Do we care? It used to be when I say turn in your Bible, man, all you heard was pages flipping. Is there a Bible anymore in our world? Or is it just on a shelf somewhere getting dust on it till Sunday when we brush it off? Paul writes in Galatians 6:11, notice what large letters I'm using as I write these closing words in my own handwriting. You want to make sure, hey, you get this. Those who are trying to force you to be circumcised are doing this for just one reason. They don't want to be persecuted for teaching that the cross of Christ alone can save. And even those who advocate circumcision don't really keep the whole law. They only want you to be circumcised so they can brag about it and claim you as their disciples. If you don't know what they're talking about here, then substitute anything else in there. I don't care what you do as long as we get to claim you as our salvation. As you got saved, we get to put another notch in our belt, another chalk mark on the wall. Go and do whatever you want to. Or don't do this, and this here. But you can do this, and this, because sin is only whatever we decide it is at this time. I'm going to go to this church because it's okay to drink, or I'm going to go to this church because it's okay to be homosexual and serve in leadership. I'm going to go to this church and I'm going to pick this denomination because of this or that. That's exactly what's going on here in this, is that these people were picking and choosing the parts of the law they liked, and they did not have any regard for the cross of Christ at all. They took it as a ticket to heaven, to what they thought or what we think heaven may be, instead of understanding that Jesus gave his life on a cross so that I could come from death to life. He says this, as for me, God forbid that I should boast about anything except the cross of our Lord Jesus Christ, the Messiah. Because of that cross, get this. This is where I'm at. Because of that cross, my interest in this world died long ago, and the world's interest in me died long ago. And it doesn't make any difference now whether I've been circumcised or not. What counts is whether we really have been changed into new and different people. You get that? What counts is whether we have been changed into new. It doesn't matter if you've said a prayer. It doesn't matter if you've been baptized 50,000 times. It doesn't matter whose church membership you've been on and how much you've been voted in. It doesn't matter if you call yourself a Christian or you call yourself a whatever. It doesn't matter. What matters is, and what counts is, whether or not you have been changed into a new and different person. May God's mercy and peace be upon all those who live by this principle. They are the new people of God. They are Israel. From now on, don't let anyone trouble me with these things. For I bear on my body the scars that show I belong to Jesus. I love that. Don't let anyone bother me with these things again. So I laid there in the hospital bed with a lot of time to talk to God. And the truth is this: I came to a crossroads. I'm sick of the church. I'm sick of it. And I mean the idea of church. I'm sick of it. And it's crept so much into what once was very pure and what was once very passionate and very driven. Church has crept in and it's become churchy. And it's in the church in our world today is a church of the world. It's a church where people care about themselves and people think about themselves and people consider God on Sunday. And I'm sick of it. So I told God, I said, let's make a deal. I wouldn't encourage you to make deals with God. But when you're laying there with a heart attack, roll the dice, man. No, I did tell God, though, and it wasn't, I'll make a deal. It was a crossroads where if I come back and continue to do what I do, everything's changing. Because I will not continue to be part of something that I despise so badly. A system that makes sin okay, that makes everybody feel comfortable. Let me tell you something. The cross of Jesus, the cross that set us free, that gave us life, the cross that took my sin and your sin and the sin of the world away, the cross that God took humanity's sins and canceled the debt against them, that very cross is offensive. It's offensive. It divides. There are two sides. There are two lines. There are two sides to be on. One is with Jesus and His will and His way in His life, hidden and covered by the blood of Jesus, walking and living only in the life of Jesus and only by the will of the Father. Or there's the world's way. Jesus said this in Revelation. He said, I know the things you do, that you're neither hot nor cold. I wish you were one or the other, but since you are lukewarm water, I will spit you out of my mouth. You say I'm rich and I have everything and I don't need a thing, but you don't realize that you're wretched and miserable and poor and blind and naked. I advise you to buy gold from me, gold that's been purified with fire, that you will be rich. And also buy white garments so that you won't be ashamed of your nakedness, and ointment for your eyes so that you'll be able to see. I am the one who corrects and disciplines everyone I love. Be diligent and turn from your indifference. The biggest sin in the church today is indifference. Indifference. I will not pastor an indifferent church. It's not going to happen. We start over right here, right now. Okay? Anything that you've been told or anything we've talked about or anything we've been promised, anything that was said before is over. The people of God who stand up for God and stand on the side of God and who want to walk in the wills and the way of God and are ready to take this world. Those are the people who are with me. God called me to this. He gave me authority over this. I am being called as the steward responsible for this. So the mess this is in, only falls on me. Okay, I need you to get that. The mess this place got in was because I would not stand and lead. But that's over. If you're here today and you're not a new and different person, and your passions and hearts and desires for the things of the world, then I welcome you and I encourage you to come and listen to the message. Come and hear what God has to say. Come and experience the authenticity of what a Christian is supposed to be. If you're here today, though, and you claim yourself to be a follower of Jesus and you want to live like the world lives, then you're giving us all a bad name. And I'm tired of it. I'm tired of it. See, I'm a Christian. Okay, if you say you're a Christian and you live like the world, then we're painted with the same brush. And I'm tired of it. Get hot or get cold. Get in or get out. It's about time we reduce the numbers of people in church. I'm sure if you're here today and you don't know Jesus, that's probably a refreshing thing to hear. Because I imagine the reason you don't know Jesus is because you're so confused. You see your buddy who says he's a Christian doing this. I had this one buddy, man, who every time he got drunk, he was just Jesus, 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 Jesus. It's confusing. It's confusing to everyone. The authentic life in Jesus is a life of purity and a life of holiness. And will we mess up? Absolutely, we'll mess up. You know what? I mess up. But God loves me and I'm forgiven. Because I'm brokenhearted over my failures. I don't mess up and go, wow, that's cool. God loves me. I can do whatever I want to. I can just mess up and He'll just keep on. He will keep on. He will always forgive you. See, when I sin, it's not what it does for God. It's what happens in me. And sin hurts me. It breaks my heart that I failed my God and my Savior who loved me and gave Himself for me. I don't want to live in sin, and I sure don't want to promote it so I feel better about it. This church is about one thing, okay? And this may not be the place for everyone. But if you're here today and you are a Christ follower and you are walking and working and trying to live your life in the holiness of God, then we are about making sure that our community knows the real Jesus. We are about seeking and saving the lost. My friends aren't going to hell, they're in it. I don't want to go save them from hell. I want to pull them out of hell. And if that's what you're about, man, welcome. I mean, if you're about reaching and seeking and representing Christ well to the broken, hurting, addicted, lost world, then welcome. But if you're about you and what you want, what you need, and what you can get, man, there are 50 churches within 10 miles of this place that would love to have you. And they will strive to meet every one of your wants. But I'm not doing it. Frankly, I'm just too tired. I'm just not going to do it. I'm going to reach the lost. You're invited. You're invited. I'm going to reach the lost of this community. I'm going to heal this community. I've been called to, with a passion, to show the real Jesus to this community. And if you're with me, let's do it. Let's go. But if they're not with you, they're against you. And I don't need anybody against me hanging around. I encourage you. I want to encourage you to give your life to Jesus. If you're here today and you call yourself a Christian, but you're only about you, guys, you are missing so much of what life really is. And you're going to look and you're going to seek and you're going to search and you're never, ever going to find it. I want to have a reputation. I like having a reputation. I want a reputation that is a no-nonsense, Jesus-only church. That's what I want. This is politics season, man, and all I hear is stinking Christians picketing, boycotting, saying this and that, and we should vote for this, and we should be against that, and that's all the world sees, and they're like, oh, Christians hate homosexuals, and Christians hate abortion, and people who have them, and all this stuff. Jesus, he didn't say stuff like that. How can a homosexual be made into a new and different person as long as the people who have the keys to life hate them? Who we are morally should flow out of our lives, not out of our picket signs. You know what drives me crazy while I'm on my soapbox? I hate. My wife, man, she used to grill me when I get home after church when I'd say I hate, because she said, you're not supposed to hate teaching our kids bad things. I hate, get me when I say this, I hate alcohol. I hate with a passion, I hate drugs of any kind. The Christian will boycott homosexuality and boycott abortion. And go home and say, beer's okay, I can have a beer, I can smoke a joint. There are more lives and families destroyed every day by alcohol and drugs than have ever been destroyed by abortion and homosexuality. Alcohol and drugs are an epidemic. The culture says, don't judge us. I'm not judging. I'm telling you it's killing you. And if you want life, that is stealing it. Jesus came to deliver you from drugs and alcohol. He came to deliver you from the life that's trying to kill you. And I will never back down from that. If one more person tells me Jesus drank wine, I'll punch them. I'm going to kick their tables over, if you know what I mean. We have to get serious about the right things. Two things. Do you know Jesus? And I mean really, is He real to you? Is He in your life? Has He dictate your desires in your heart? Has He made you into a new and different person? Has He taken the desires of the world and the sin and flesh out of you and replaced them with desires that are good and holy and of God? And if He has, then do you want to give that to other people? That's the kind of church we're going to be. If you're here today to find out if Jesus is real or don't even really know why you're here, He's real. And I want you to hang around and find out how real He is. My commitment to God was I'm in, I'm staying. I like being alive. Figured that out. Being alive is much better. But being alive and alive is even better. Paul says in one place, he says, those who are alive and remain, and the word in the Hebrew, in the Greek there is alive and alive, like those who are alive, breathing, and alive in Jesus. There's something about being alive and alive. There's something about it that just makes life worth living. I'll be honest with you, I'm just sick and tired of being sick and tired. I'm sick and tired of depression. I'm sick and tired of being passionless. I don't know. I'm sick and tired of being part of something that no matter what you do, it's just lukewarm. Guys, this church will not be lukewarm. It's going to get hot. Listen to me, man. The first 2 years of this church, I had more people leave here and they came to me and said, I can't come there because it's just too hot. It's constant. You never let up. It's just too hot. And I was like, thank you. Thank you. I'm convinced we don't have enough people leaving the church for the right reasons. People are going to leave. They left Jesus, man. He got something on me. They left Jesus. But I want people leaving for the right reason. So we're starting over. And I'm not going to apologize about anything. It's just what we're going to be. It's what we're going to do. Come and be part. Get on board. Let's do this. I want to pray for you. God, I thank you so much.